Folks, welcome into sportsbookreview.com. It is Monday. It's time to talk a little Major League Baseball. Hope your weekend was fun and profitable, but we got a new week. And as we like to say here, new week, new money. I'm Donnie Seymour. He is Jason Radowitz along with Kyle Purviance. We are the Major League Baseball team. Short, compact card today. I feel like we could take a deep breath and sort of let it simmer over and have some fun today. Jason, how was your weekend, buddy?
Yeah, great weekend. Had a lot of fun. Won a lot of bets in the MLB and the KBO, so I couldn't complain whatsoever. Mets got the job done against the Rockies. Some really great pitching there, so really can't complain about this weekend.
Kyle going out hoping this show is as fast as possible to get some needles stuck in him. And no, not for COVID, but looking for some acupuncture. Hopefully Kyle has some acupuncture for this card today. How was your weekend, Kyle?
My weekend was fantastic, and I do need that acupuncture because I got to get this elbow right because me and this new driver just not getting along with the new driver, and it's beautiful. It's not the club's fault, but I sure do yell at it a lot on the course. But I'm excited about today. It was a good weekend of baseball. Didn't do a whole lot of betting, and then one tweet went wrong. Couldn't get more than 2 runs from the Nats yesterday, but I'm ready for this week of baseball, and I love these little 6-game card. You can really go over everything, ready to rock and roll.
No, we certainly can. Thank you guys for tuning in here on a Monday. We are going to slide it down here to Major League Baseball in-game updates. Almost had some in-game updates. If we had a few more players pitching for the White Sox, I could really go off on a tangent on why they allow this to happen in Major League Baseball. Neither here nor there. But it was an interesting game to say the least. Early start up in Boston, a complete shelling right off the bat. Lucas Giolito bounced after the first inning. Jason, I don't know if you had any bets on this game, but boy, if anybody was looking at some overs, you had a lot of fun at breakfast time.
Yeah, didn't have a bet, but I leaned towards the Red Sox in the first 5. So actually looking pretty good there. But of course, I can't sit here and say I expected Giolito to do that. So yeah, I didn't bet on this game. I had the Red Sox first 5 as a lean, but didn't expect Giolito to do that, and don't expect to see that ever again this season.
Now, see, here's the thing now. So I'm going to bring this up to Kyle. A really good handicapper says, at first inning, at first 5 over, at full game over, unbelievable. Now, I didn't have time to tweet it out, but my bank is thick, Kyle.
Exactly. If you guys are reading my mind, all I was thinking was Red Sox today. So that was an official
line,
play
minus 2.5, 3.5, 4.5. Yep, go ahead.
I even took a live spot on the White Sox plus 7.5. So how about that? Just to really go undefeated this morning. So I feel great about it. I'm really rich today. Acupuncture is paid for. Ready to rock and roll.
Now, good stuff, guys. And by the way, updated over the weekend, we have 85,000 subscribers now. It's probably a little bit over because it won't put up until you get to that 0.1. But thank you guys for hitting that subscribe button, turning your notification bells on, having fun, whether it's soccer information, UFC, whether it's Major League Baseball, NBA. We got you covered here at sportsbookreview.com. Next week, also a little bit of draft coverage in the NFL as well as we continue to roll all throughout the spring, carrying you through the summer. And before you guys know it, yes, NFL season, college football season will be here. But let's have some fun today with Major League Baseball and get after it. As we said, short card today. A couple games that are starting at 7 o'clock tonight. The first one will begin with 9:51, 9:52. That is St. Louis and Washington. Flaherty's going to be on the mound versus Ross. This one opened up as a total of 8 across the board. Some now coming in at 8.5 as I'm taking a look at Pinnacle. New Jersey book still keeping it at 8 even. Also a slight dog here for the Washington Nationals. Pinnacle opened up offshore here, minus 112 as we see it with St. Louis, but roughly a coin flip across the board. I'm going to start with you first this one, Jason. Flaherty and Ross, St. Louis and Washington. What are some thoughts on this game?
So I've really enjoyed watching Ross pitch in the first 2 games of the season, but this isn't a Ross that we're really used to seeing. Flaherty obviously has the more talent, the better pitcher between these two. Yeah, Flaherty's first start was terrible. He allowed a ton of runs in that first game, but now he's allowed 1 run in 11 innings with 12 strikeouts, 4 walks. Like I said, he'll have his moments, but he is a solid pitcher. I would say on paper, it looks like the Cardinals have a better lineup. You have Edman, Arenado, Molina, Carlson. They all have a weighted OBA of 340 or higher. Of course, also Goldschmidt in that lineup as well. But yeah, don't be mistaken. They can also strike out. It's a little bit of a boom or bust there for the Cardinals. When you look at the Nationals, really their offense has struggled. Kyle just talked about it yesterday. Obviously, you get Turner doing a little bit, but the rest of the team really laid an egg out there. So, yeah, I think Flaherty gets the job done, especially in the first 5. I think the Cardinals should be able to score a run or 2 with that lineup, and maybe not strike out nearly that much because, look, Ross, 7.36 strikeouts per 9 innings. It's only been 2 games in 11 innings, but not the highest strikeout pitcher. So I think the Cardinals should be able to get a run or 2 in the first 5 innings. So I would look at the Cardinals at minus 125 in the first 5, and that's just a lean for me, though.
Yeah, Joe Ross has been really good this year. Looking at that xFIP, south of 4, so keeping himself in the ballgame. But also, if you take a look between lefty and righty batters, Jason, 173 weighted on base average to lefties and a 215 to righties. That is sensational stuff. And you know me, once that Washington lineup comes out, and if I see Joe Ross batting 8th, get ready for another video that I'm going to send out, and we can all have a lot of fun with that. But obviously, concentrating much more on the pitching end of it than the hitting end of it. Roster has been released here, Kyle, for the St. Louis hitters. Edman, Goldschmidt, Arenado, Molina, Carlson, DeYoung, Carpenter, and Williams will be the starting 8 at bat for the St. Louis Cardinals. Taking a look at this game again, it looks like coin flip here. Not a high over under, not bad weather conditions, right around 60 degrees, high 50s, wind not really being much of a factor. What are we looking at today between St. Louis and Washington?
Yeah, and we just saw this matchup, right? And both of them pitched pretty well. And, Ross even got a hit in the 8th, out of the 8th spot, which was kind of funny that day just because of all of the things around it. I'm actually on my bookie, and this is why it's important to shop around. I'm on my bookie, and I'm getting Cardinals first 5 at plus 110. So I like that a whole lot more than if I have to. So if I'm looking at the Cardinals, who I favor just slightly here, I do think it's a 50-50 coin flip. I think this could go either way. Ross has certainly been better than we expected. They both pitched well against the same team, about a week ago? We were just laughing about this. So I'll take that plus money when I'm little flip-flop like this. I have exposure to both in DFS. I think you get a good price for Ross. I believe he's at 7,700 here on DraftKings. Let me just double-check that. 7,900 on DraftKings, and you're getting Flaherty for 85. So you might get a little value there. But I like both lineups. I have more St. Louis bats. DeYoung, Arenado, Goldschmidt, Molina, all these guys, nice advantages, 54% or better against Ross. So I have the slight advantage here to St. Louis. And if I'm getting a plus number first 5, I'm going to jump all that. So I will take the plus 110 first 5 for St. Louis. By
the way, from a capping look, I'm going to ask both of you, since we have some extra time on the show today, take a look at the game and specifically from the St. Louis Cardinals perspective. As a handicapper, I know we look at the numbers, and that's really what's hard and fast in different pitchers day to day, but do you like to jump on a team that gets absolutely dominated the day before at the plate and maybe not seeing an ace on the mound, specifically with Aaron Nola with the Philadelphia Phillies, and then coming into this game and seeing Ross? Do you think that gives them a bump, or is it just like, hey, maybe they're still stuck in a run at this point? I'll start with you first, Jason. Anything, because, again, some people it doesn't affect at all, but some people look at it and say, hey, you know what? They should bounce back today.
Yeah, see, I'm more of a guy that I like to look just at the numbers, and that's really it. So I don't really worry about what happened yesterday, what's going to happen, looking ahead to the next day. I worry about the numbers right now. And, obviously you can look at, different splits the last 7 days, the last 14 days. That could help with capping as well. But for me, I don't look ahead. I don't look behind. I just look at what's happening presently. And, that kind of helps my capping a lot. So that wouldn't, really matter to me, what happened the day before. But for some, yeah, of course, it could be something that people look at, just not my type of thing.
How about you, Kyle? Looking at a team of the roster that gets dominated by an upper-level pitcher, and then you get sort of a drop-off here. Do you lick your chops? I can't wait to get back in the box, or damn, I was 0 for 4 yesterday with 2 Ks. I better get back on it, and I start pressing at the plate. How do you look at it?
Yeah, I sometimes do that with individual players. Like a guy like Juan Soto in this game is a perfect example. Hasn't been real hot. Few sluggish games here, single-digit fantasy points. I'm like, this guy is too good against a right-handed pitcher. Maybe today he busts out because he's due. So I have Juan Soto on my home run list, even though I slightly favor St. Louis here. Their lineup up and down, just from these sort of 3-year averages, have more advantages against Ross than Washington does against Flaherty. But I usually do that for individuals. Like, man, this guy, this is 6 games now where Judge hasn't homered. He's due. He's going to get a home run. Those are the sort of things I'll sometimes do. I don't put a ton of weight into it. It's not my end-all, be-all, of course, but it is something I think about, usually with individual players, though.
No, it's interesting stuff here because, again, a short card today, and this is really a microcosm across Major League Baseball. Like, you're trying to put in the 2021 statistics, which, versus a right-handed pitcher, a lot of these lineups going to have, 35, maybe even close to 40 at-bats now versus right-handed pitching. And I guess that juiced baseball really is starting to weigh down because it's really hit and miss when you go down the list because usually you look at a lineup and say, boy, I think these guys can hammer. Arenado's decent, 342 weighted on base average. Molina 344, Carlson 337. But outside of look at Paul Goldschmidt, 51 at bats versus righties this year, 225 weighted on base average, and an ISO of .082. So maybe something with those baseballs here early in the season. But again, we talked about it before the show, Kyle, going back and forth in the chat. Something's got to give here on this cold weather because, we dropped right in with a parachute in the 85 degrees last summer in the pandemic with juice baseballs and DHs, and it was awesome. But now looking at it from this perspective, there's not a lot of where you say, wow, I got 7 games on the card that I'm really going to get after at this point. So just some food for thought process. But this is a coin flip game to start, and we'll keep moving down the list. City of Philadelphia, brotherly love, 953, 954, winners of 2 or 3 versus the Cardinals over the weekend. Now you get San Francisco. Welcome home, Gabe Kapler in this game, and it's roughly a pick 'em across the board. Pinnacle -100, FanDuel -100, an over/under that opened up at 8.5, now currently sits again at 8.5. Not a lot of line movement here. Gausman versus Anderson on the mound today. Jason, we'll start with you first. What are we looking at here between the Giants and the Philadelphia Phillies?
So Chase Anderson hasn't pitched that poorly so far this season, but they were also 2 games against the Mets, who their offense really hasn't gotten going yet. So, yeah, I would side with Gausman here. He's got really high strikeout numbers. I think a lot of people really don't recognize how great he's been this year and last year combined. So I like the Giants at -115 in the first 5 against the Phillies. Really, if you look at it, only Harper and maybe Real Muto have solid numbers in this spot. So, yeah, I think the Giants in the first 5, but let's not, be mistaken. Their offense has struggled as well, and could be a spot where they struggle again, especially on the road. So not something I'm going to be taking, but I guess the Giants -115 in the first 5 would be my best bet if I had to choose.
Yeah, don't have any official lineups here from what I'm looking right now between either one of these teams, Kyle. So we'll just start with the pitching matchups here. Obviously, Anderson, as a Phillies fan when they signed him, I didn't have high hopes for the guy. You're just hoping he's like an innings eater, but we saw that's working out with Matt Moore, and a lot the same for Chase Anderson. A 5.85 xFIP, K percentage on the season, 15.8%, which is terrible. Walk percentage, 13%. Lefties are getting after him. And here's the key that we're looking at, because Jason is right. There's not a lot to love between both of these teams with offensive plate appearances just based on 2021 statistics versus pitchers. But Listella, Yastrzemski, Dickerson, Belt, and Crawford, 5 out of your first 6 batters coming from the left-hand side, and that's where Chase Anderson seems like he's struggling. Buster Posey, it's kind of funny. We have him on the marquee here for the show, but not sure if he's going to play. Took a pitch off of the forearm on Saturday. I don't think it was his throwing arm, but they said the swelling did go down. We'll see if he's in. But even so, if he is in, 20 bats this year versus right-handed pitching, Kyle. A 0 ISO, 257 weighted on base average, and striking out 25% of the time. I don't know how effective he would be anyway, so maybe just a name. Oh, I can't take him now with Buster Posey out. You got to look at some of the numbers. Really struggling versus right-handed pitching here anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And you're 100% right. I think the advantage here is with the Giants and the pitching. And Chase Anderson has not been terrible, as you mentioned, but it's those lefties in the middle of the order. You mentioned it. Dickerson, 56% advantage over the last 3 years. Listella, 70%. Yastrzemski, 54%. Belt, 61%. Crawford, 77%. So even though the offense has struggled, and trust me, I've gone over this for years with my Giants, and on some even years during those 2010s, we had some good years there, of course. But just looking at the numbers, it's another coin flip. And again, I'm over here on my bookie in the first 5. And the Giants are getting a +115 number in the first 5. I think they have the pitching advantage. You probably see both pitchers last those first 5 innings. Do I think it's going to be, guns a-blazing and balls flying out of the park? I do not. Doesn't look like it's the greatest weather there either. Jason touched on it perfectly. The 2 hitters with real advantages today are Bryce Harper, Didi Gregorius a little bit as well for the Phillies. So just more advantages for the Giants. I think they have the pitching advantage. I'll take that plus number in the first 5 at +115.
Yeah, you're trying to find some additives here. So let's just say if we're looking at a San Francisco Giants team total, or just to go over the total, or even if you have him as a side, you look at Chase Anderson. I brought up the point, not a huge strikeout guy, particularly this year, under 20%. You could really get let's just say you had a hammer on the mound that's, up in that 25% strikeout range. If you take a look versus right-handed pitchers, the San Francisco Giants lineup today, the first guy in the lineup, Tommy Listella, obviously your leadoff guy, he's not going to be a big strikeout typically, making contact, and he does, only strikes out about 14.8% of the time versus right-handed pitchers, But after that, Take a look at these numbers. Yastrzemski, 30%, Dickerson, 30%, Belt, 35%, Longoria, 32%, Crawford, 25%, Posey, 25%. And how about Slater? You're talking about your 8-hole batter. You figure like, hey, just try to get on base. Strikes out 48% of the time versus right-handed pitchers. So when you try to formulate it, if you have a strikeout pitcher, he can really do damage. But I'm going to start with you first here, Jason. Looking at that, and you try to just take a leap forward. If a strikeout pitcher is not a strikeout pitcher, most of the time these batters are going to struggle against guys with electric stuff. That's not Chase Anderson. If you had to pick a battle in this game, do you think Chase Anderson, because I don't have the strikeout props, so I'm not a strikeout prop guy, but do you figure more strikeouts because San Francisco strikes out a lot, or the opposite, saying, well, wait a second, this isn't, a dominant right-handed pitcher out here on the mound, like let's just say Trevor Bauer?
Yeah, so right now I'm seeing Chase Anderson over 5.5 strikeouts at plus 120. Okay. Anderson, he really, going back to last year, 9.28 strikeouts per 9 innings. So does get a solid amount of strikeouts. Can he get to 6? Of course he can. The Giants offense has struggled recently, but I would be a little bit scared. The Giants, like you said, they do have a lot of lefties that can get to Anderson early and to Zay a little bit earlier, and then he won't be able to get his 6 strikeouts. So that would be the one thing that I'd be nervous about. But Anderson does strike out batters, 9.28 per 9. That's over 1 per inning. So let's say he goes 6 innings, you probably get that 5.5. And don't forget, you're also in the National League when you get the pitcher as well, which helps, of course, which we didn't have last year. And these are the numbers I'm adding from this year and last year as well. So you'd assume National League pitchers are going to have more strikeouts per 9 just facing against the pitcher in the first place. So yeah, there's value there at over 5.5 at plus 120 for sure for strikeouts. It's just, can he stay in the game long enough to get there?
Take a look at Gaussman here, Kyle, going up against that Philadelphia Phillies lineup. And, again, looking across Major League Baseball, there's not a lot of rosy situations here. Bryce Harper is destroying right-handed pitching. JT Realmuto hitting very well. But outside of that, in this lineup, it flat out stinks. You're talking about a center fielding position where the Philadelphia Phillies are batting like 0.075 out of a certain hole. But looking at this, ISO numbers, power numbers, this is what you look at. If you're looking at team totals and games going over, you want power numbers. That's doubles in the gap. That's home runs into the seats. McCutchen, 107. Hoskins, 0.079. Take out Harper and Realmuto, which I said are batting very well against righties. Alec Bohm, 0.026. Didi Gregorius, 0.081. Gene Segura, 0.086. Mickey Moniak, 0. It's hard to contemplate that, but is this one of those games you just try to look forward and say, eventually they're going to hit, maybe it starts tonight, or just like, dude, I'm out on this?
Yeah, I'm kind of out on it, and I think Gaussman has looked all right this year. Now, I will say the projected lineup for the Phillies tonight, 25 of 89 lifetime, for those of you who wish to know, it's a 281 average. So they've had a little bit of success here. But for me, again, it's another one. I don't trust either offense. I trust Gaussman just a little bit more. I don't have to worry about the bullpens if I do this first 5 and just go the first 5 innings, so I'll take the plus number on the Giants. It's more of a lean. It's not, I don't feel great about it, especially after you reel off those strikeout numbers. That never makes you feel good about anything regarding the Giants lineup. But just off the numbers here, I would say if I'm betting this game, I'm going to take that plus number on the first 5 and not worry about the bullpens.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. And again, look at this card overall. Like you had a game in Boston, which you can flip the script. It's 7.5 was the total. That game ends up 11-4 with position players pitching. But look at the games on the card today: 8, 8.5, 8, 8.5, 6.5, and 8. Where are those days where we can fire up those 9.5s and say, boy, man, we're really going to get after it today? Maybe it comes with the changing of the weather, or maybe Major League Baseball says, you know what? Remember the baseballs we were loosening up the grip on those? Let's tighten that back up, see if we get more aerodynamic with some balls flying out. Because I had a great start to April, still sitting at 8-3, primarily on team totals. But as I look at these, and I know it's a short compressed card, there's not a lot to love in any of these games. So we're just projecting as eventually something's going to come to play. Let's keep going down the list. 8-10 on, I guess, in the Midwest, we can call this. 959, 960, Tampa Bay and Kansas City. Fleming, the lefty, going after Danny Duffy. Another coin flip game, which is nice because we don't have monster, numbers outside of the Dodgers, which seemingly always have a monster number. This one, roughly a pick 'em. Opened up at Pinnacle 115 offshore. Now sits at 110. FanDuel, New Jersey, 126. That now sits as a pick 'em. Look at this. Pinnacle opens up at 8.5. 6.5 drops all the way to 7.5, and the same thing offshore and also inshore. New Jersey's 7.5 numbers across the board. Usually look at that and say, wait a second, Kansas City's got a 7.5. Usually their pitchers aren't very good, bullpen's not good, the team can hit. Tampa Bay not doing their part, but certainly loving playing in New York over the weekend. 46 degrees, wind blowing in at 15 miles an hour. Save me, Jason. I mean, can we get any offense here?
Yeah, I think we do. It's such a low number at 7.5.
Yeah.
Look, I agree. We got two lefties on the mound. So far this season, the Rays have actually looked pretty good against the lefties this season. I think they've had a lot of guys that walk at a high rate. Of course, they'll strike out at a high rate, but both these pitchers on the mound, even with Fleming and Duffy, both aren't really high strikeout guys. So I would assume we get them balls in play. Both are allowing, 1.45 home runs per 9 innings. So you expect maybe a home run from each side, potentially. The walks aren't bad. So, you get that. But, I mean, the FIP for both of these pitchers is beyond 4.5, dating back to last year and this year combined. Yeah, I think this game could go over. It's a low number. If the game stays close, you get extra innings and you score some runs there as well. The Royals, they've had some success against lefties as well. Merrifield, Santana, Soler, Lopez, they all have high-weighted OBAs. Ball should be in play versus Fleming. And, Ray should have, against Duffy as well. So, look, this is a tough one. I'm not taking this personally, of course. But I do think this game goes over, and I think both can get over the 3.5 on their team total as well. It's risky, though. Obviously, the line's there for a reason. These pitchers have had success previously, but I do think that we can get some runs from each side against the lefties.
Look at that Fleming here. Obviously, a lefty, you would figure that he would really – I mean, we're only talking about 21 batters that he's faced this year, but you figure that the righties would get to him. It's actually been the opposite. The lefties have gotten to him. So if we're looking at this roster, Benintendi is a lefty and Lopez is a lefty, so maybe they're a little bit elevated in this one. But even looking at Tampa Bay overall, they do have some numbers on some right-handed batters that make sense against Duffy. And Kyle, I'll ask you this question. It's just hard because baseball, you're just trying to take weather out of play where you say, oh, it's the summer. It's 80 degrees, maybe a wind's blowing somewhere. But 46 degrees with the wind just blasting in, it's kind of tough to make these play out because theoretically and also historically, both of these teams aren't bashers. They're not like, hey, let me just get the ball up in a jet stream and we got 5 home runs in a game. Might be tough to come by in this one. What are you looking at in this game?
I was literally going to say that. No one's going to mistake either of these teams for team launch pad light, launch angle light. That's not what we got here. So everyone's favorite here, this is when I was looking at it. If I picked a game where I think a nerfy makes a whole lot of sense, this is one of them. Duffy's actually been very good, just projects well against this lineup. They've only had 25 career at-bats, only 6 hits. His last couple of starts against Tampa Bay, both of those starts over 40 fantasy points. Fleming, not a ton of information here, but when you look at the lineups, Kansas City certainly has more advantages. I think Kansas City is kind of a sneaky stack in DFS. People will stay away from it because of that weather. This is another game where I'm getting the Royals at a plus spot in the first 5, getting plus 125 first 5. I think Duffy can hold down that Rays lineup. I think anybody could really hold down that Rays lineup. So I'm giving the slight edge, the lean here to the Royals first 5. And I like the nerfy call. I think this could be the nerfy of the day. So for those of you who love those no runs first innings, here's one of them right here. And I would do a slight lean to Kansas City plus money in the first 5.
Here's a tough one on that because I'll counter that point. If we're looking at from Duffy's perspective, who again is a decent pitcher, a veteran guy, but if we're looking at the top of the lineup, anticipated, don't have an official lineup yet for Tampa Bay. Diaz has a weighted on base average of 414, a Rosarena 328, Meadows 320, Brousseau 368, and Margot 420. Then it really falls off. But also you're taking a look at guys with elevated walk rates. Yandy Diaz 22%, Meadows 17%, Brousseau 13%, Margot 11%, and Brandon Lau at 16.7%. That's one of those where I say maybe they can squeeze it out, but if you made it through the first inning, you're probably going to get a clean second and third inning because there's not much damage. It looks like that can be done at the bottom of those lineups. But I just wish we had better conditions, Kyle, in this game. Than hey, take 40 degrees and the wind blowing in. It's tough. Exactly. It's like the groundhog saw foreshadows this year everywhere. Yeah, come on. Winter just took forever. It's like we're in Game of Thrones and freaking White Walkers are coming and the Starks are freaking out. That's how it feels everywhere. It's time for spring and summer. What the hell is going on here? It is tough with the conditions. That's why, if I'm going to give a burst down, maybe we get lucky in the first inning, but those numbers certainly something to consider. So if you're hesitant, you hear those numbers, scares you off. I get it, but just kind of looking like these two teams don't scare me all that much. So maybe a nerfy here, and I'll give the slight edge
to the Royals. I just have more of their bats in my player pool, see a little bit better advantages and a little bit more pop, maybe, even though Perez cannot hit lefties for anything to save his life. But slightly into the Royals first 5, but I kind of like that Nerfy in this one. But now I'm more
it's not
nervous.
it's not a bad one because like I was just giving you the numbers, which make sense, but also you're not getting a cheap home run, and that's key a lot of times.
Right.
Hey, one mistake pitch, you rocket it out into the gap, it goes into the first row. That's not happening in this game. You are going to have to pummel a baseball to get it out of town here in Kansas City today. We'll see how it plays out, but it's always fun to see, specifically when you have a no run in the first inning. Relatively quickly, and it's a fun sweat, particularly if you do end up winning those type of bets. 961, 962, 938 Eastern first pitch, 638. Out west, that's going to be Texas and the Los Angeles Angels. Arihara and Bundy on the mound today. Look at Pinnacle, opened up at a 162 and catapults up to 229. FanDuel waited a little bit, opened up at 235. That's even higher. Minus 240 for Dylan Bundy over Arihara. And I guess it's more of that Texas lineup as opposed to what the pitching prospects are going to be. But Bundy has been pretty good. Looking at some of these numbers here, Jason, I'm going to start with you first. It's not all that impressive. And again, we're only looking at some snapshots here of what makes some sense. There's 3 in this lineup that are going to do absolute damage today, or at least set up. Ohtani, 452 weighted on base average to righties. Trout, 526. And Walsh, 502. Everybody else is a trash can, but those 3 can get after it. What are you looking at, Jason, in this game?
And I feel like we say that every single year.
Yes.
We talk about the 3 big hitters, and Rendon, we would swap out now Walsh for Rendon right now, but we say that every year. The middle of the order is just fantastic, and the rest, they just don't have enough offense around Trout and Ohtani and Rendon and Walsh, who's ever in the game. But this is what happens every single year with the Angels, and usually their pitching isn't terrific. But right now they do have Bundy on the mound, who likely is their best pitcher, who's looked really well, throughout the entire season and even last year as well. Right now, I'm trying to look at player props for those bats for the Angels, Ohtani, Trout, and Walsh. I don't see anything up right now. I just see Rangers player props. So something to look at moving forward, Trout, Ohtani, and Walsh. Obviously, like Donnie just said, all 3 of those guys have really high weighted OBAs and high ISOs in this spot. So that could be something to look at for sure. But Arihara, he looked a lot better in his last outing. But this is a guy in his first couple of outings really struggled to get strikeouts. Really struggled to get strikeouts. And if that's the case, if the Angels get the ball in play, they should be able to do enough damage to win this game. But really, I would just worry about player props. Look at Ohtani, Trout, and Walsh over 1.5 total bases. Take a home run prop maybe and take a chance on that. I know some people in the chat love home run props. Take a chance on one of those guys. I think Trout would be the greatest one. Even Walsh, he has really low strikeouts, 11.8%, and walking 11.8%. But also be careful if you're taking total bases. Just know that a walk isn't a total base. Trout, 19% walks in this spot. So that means 1 out of 5 plate appearances he's walking, which won't help your case at all. So maybe find someone like Ohtani who's only walking 5.1% of the time. Maybe he could put one in the seats or get a double or something as well. But those 3 guys should destroy in this spot against Arihara, who really has struggled to strike out batters, except for the last start. But I just don't think that that's going to continue. I do think that Arihara is going to be struggling to get strikeouts throughout the entire season. So those 3 guys I would look at for player props. I wouldn't put all that money on the money line for the Angels in this spot, even with the Rangers offense looking really poor.
Yeah, usually they can correlate over, but also nobody will ever be able to explain to me where you get a walk and it doesn't count against total bases. It doesn't say like bases in play. Total bases. Oh, I got the first base. I walked. Well, that's 1 base. No, it's not a base. You'll never get that. It's just one of those things where the book gets over on like, hey, I had a single and 2 walks. Awesome, 3 bases. No, you had 1 base. You'd be like, what? Where does that even make sense? But that's neither here nor there in this one. Yeah. Looking at this game overall, as I flip over and take a look at Texas, who I like to coin as the 0.0 crew out here, let's get to the guy that's always on my radar every single year is Joey Gallo. To me, one of the single worst Major League Baseball players. He would never make it onto my team at any time. But Donnie, he hits for power. Well, riddle me this. He's a lefty going against a righty this year. His ISO number, 0.000. He has no power and no position in this game. Kyle, take it away before I get angry at Joey Gallo.
And that is a cold dish to learn when you learn that total basis prop. When you learn that for the first time, it ruins your night. You're like, wait, you're starting starting the email right. Okay, that's it. I'm emailing the fucking company, and oh god. Anyways,
you
I digress.
this wrong.
Yeah, I get so pissed off at that. So hear me out here. Texas Rangers, biggest underdog on the card today, right? I'm just looking through here. Now, I like the Angels team total. It's one of my favorite plays of the day. This is the one game where we do have hitting weather, 80 degrees.
Yes.
Warm weather. We can get some runs. I like the over in this game. I like the Angels team total at 4.5. But I also kind of like the Rangers. Now, this is a smaller sample size, but the projected lineup for the Rangers have faced Dylan Bundy, 59 at-bats, 24 of 59, a 4.07 average here, including Brock Holt. Listen, you don't see these ones very often where you just see these massive success, especially from a guy like Brock Holt.
Yeah.
But he is 11 of 19 lifetime off of Dylan Bundy, 3 doubles and a home run. That's a 5.79 average. There's some advantage. I think Texas is a sneaky DFS stack tonight. They're going to be super low owned. I'm not big on Dylan Bundy. I've stacked against him for years. I don't think he's the greatest pitcher. If you're one of those guys like, who's the biggest underdog? Do they have a shot today? I honest to God do believe Texas has a shot today. Angels, they have those 3 who I got them in DFS. I got them home run and marked, and I like that Angels team total at 4.5. This could be like a 6-5 Rangers upset, biggest upset of the day, biggest underdog of the day. So I'm going to take the shot here, the wild shot, take the Rangers over the Angels, take that money line at plus 205 I'm looking at right here. And I like both teams for their team total.
And if you look at this one, the total runs, I mean, you're getting a cheap number. Texas is 3 at minus 114 at FanDuel, which other outlets, I'm sure you can probably, at a decent price, maybe around that 140 range, get it to 2.5 or something in that. But that's what you do when you bet. Look, I call it a walk the dog game. Like, I'm going to bet Texas, or if I'm going to bet a team total, I don't even know if I want to see it until the final score, and I'll just check in right when I'm about to go to bed, because it's kind of tough to do. But also, you're trying to compartmentalize how good Bundy has been, because you see him over the years with the Orioles, they stink. I can't take an Orioles pitcher, but he's been pretty good, and we'll see if that continues tonight. But Kyle does bring up the most astute point of the day. At least it's going to be 80 degrees, and the ball's going to carry somewhere at this point. So that's nice to certainly see and try to get after and bet. But that's the marquee games that we have up. There's 2 more games left on the board, 9:55, 9:56, as we go around the Major League Baseball odds. 10-10 start, East Coast, 7-10 out on the West, 9:55, 9:56. Milwaukee and San Diego, Woodruff and Musgrove. That line opened up at Pinnacle offshore, minus 130 is a favorite towards San Diego. That has now jumped up to minus 157. Some of the New Jersey outlets here as high as 162. But here's where I look at this, and I say, I see the 6.5. I go, oh, second of a doubleheader. 6.5. No, fellas. 6.5 here between Woodruff and Musgrove. I know they're both good pitchers, but this isn't exactly like, Chris Sale in his prime versus Max Scherzer. And to see a 6.5 on the board, and you can say, hey, is it 30 degrees snowing and the wind's blowing in? No, this is San Diego. I'm going to start with you first, Jason. Is this one, I know the pitchers are good, but you just take a shot and say, I'm going with the over? 3-3 gives me a win in Major League Baseball here.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Padres should be able to do some damage. If you look at their numbers, I know Woodruff's not a really high walk guy, but the Padres have done really well working out walks, not striking out. They put balls in play. They don't ground out either. Obviously, Woodruff is a high ground ball guy at around 50%, but they don't ground out. They walk. They limit strikeouts. They have Tatis back in the lineup. I'm not sure if Grisham will be back, but this is a team that will put the ball in play. And like you said, the weather really isn't bad. It's not. We're not in New Jersey here. We're in San Diego. So I do think the Padres are able to score some runs here. Musgrove against Milwaukee. Milwaukee without Yelich. That might be more of a struggle for Milwaukee. That's why I'm on the Padres minus 145 in the first 5. You could be more aggressive than me. You could take that minus 0.5 in the first 5. You can take over 3.5 in the team total. But I'm just going to take it. Be smart and just take the Padres minus 145 in the first 5 on the money line. I'm going to roll with Musgrove, who's allowed 1 earned run in 19 innings pitched this season. K rate is now above 12 per 9 innings, dating back to last year. He's looked terrific, and like I said, the Padres, I think that they should be able to work against Woodruff, get on base, and potentially score a couple runs there. Just kind of work walks, just be disciplined and get on base. I think they'll be able to do that, especially with Tatis in the lineup again.
Yeah, taking a look at this one, Kyle, out on the West Coast, obviously good weather conditions, but this is one of the few teams here on the card tonight. Now, we know how good Woodruff has been. You're expecting probably a similar pitching performance. Maybe he ups it because it still is a pitcher's ballpark, but again, nice conditions. But if you're looking at a team that finally you could take a deep breath and like, man, at least they project to something here. You're looking at the 1 through 8. Elevated base on balls. And what that means is they're going to work the count. 22%, 11%, 11%, 12, 11, 10, 16, and 15. Every single one of those is green. And what I mean by that is you don't have anybody just hacking around. These guys will work the count and take the free base on balls if you give that to them. And also compound this at the same time. This isn't a big strikeout lineup, particularly versus right-handed pitching. So when we take a look at the base on balls, they're getting on base, but also taking a look at putting the ball in play. It's such a lost art. Guys on second and third, just put the ball in play because against Woodruff this year alone, striking out close to 30% of the guys he's facing. So if you're going to have a lineup that is going to be able to hit and at least take pitches, that makes sense. But also looking at the weighted on base average, elevated as well. Grisham, 438. Cronenworth, 387. Machado, 362. Hosmer, 411. Myers, 424. Profar, 355. The only guy down in that number is weighted on base average is Fernando Tatis at 268. This looks like a lineup that can do damage, but to me, not the greatest pitcher to go up against, but at least it looks like I have a fighting chance, Kyle.
Yeah, you nailed it right on the head. And 6.5 is too low. So you just have to do that out of principle, right? How often? And I did the same thing you did. I'm like, wait, is this a doubleheader game? Why is this so low?
Yes.
And look, Musgrove, not the greatest outing last time, but we know he's a good pitcher. Woodruff obviously has been very, very good this year. But a 3.5 for a full Padres lineup with all these advantages, a lot of green numbers. You mentioned that green number. I'm glad you mentioned it because that's what I look at here. Cronenworth, green. Machado, green. Tatis, even green. Myers, green. Pham, green. So it just goes up and down the order, and I look at a 3.5 team total of -105. Just makes way too much sense. Over 6.5 makes sense. Another thing just kind of building me towards that team total for the Padres feeling better to me than anything else. I like that 3.5. That's probably my official bet in this game. Padres, terrific bullpen, and we always say, oh, this Milwaukee bullpen, really, really good. Lots of talent, tons of talent. They've been the 7th worst bullpen in the major leagues through the first 13 games of the year with an ERA of over 4.5. So people have been able to get to this bullpen as well. So even if Woodruff comes out and maybe only gives up 1 run in 5 2/3 or 6 2/3, that bullpen's been a little leaky. We know the Padres have the power in their lineup. Over 3.5 when you're getting a team like this and you're getting a number at almost even money, I'll take it. I like that Padres team total.
Team launch angle. It's time. Late night, you're going to stay up and watch them cover the run line. You're going to watch up and stay them. Hey, they only have 2 runs through 6 innings. 4 solo home run blasts in the 7th and 8th innings. So here we go. 965, 966. Late night Major League Baseball on the West Coast. 7:10 first pitch out there. 10:10 for us guys on the East Coast. Opens up at 193. What do you know? 200s now across the board. Over under at 8.5. May is going to be on the mound versus Sheffield, the lefty. Jason, we'll start with you first as usual on this game. Decompressing yesterday, finally lost the game to San Diego, but still did what you came to do, went on the road and beat your division rival 2 out of 3 games. Now we're going to see them head up and play in Seattle, which you know what that means for us. No longer the pitcher hitting. You're going to get a full 9 at-bats in this game. Obviously, Bellinger going to be out still a while with that hairline fracture in his leg, but the lineup should still look good. Can they do damage tonight against Sheffield, who's actually been decent against right-handed batters this year?
Yeah, and another thing here, the Dodgers, another team that they do really well, working out walks and being disciplined, being smart. Yeah, they strike out a lot more than like the Padres, for example, against lefties. But this is another game where I think, the Dodgers should be able to get through first 5 innings. Dustin May, this is a guy, his strikeout numbers weren't really that great last year. They were around like 7 per 9 innings and maybe a little bit higher than that. They worked on it this year. They said, hey, he agreed. Like, we got to up the strikeout numbers for May. And that's what's happened so far. He's got 8 strikeouts in first game, 6 in the other. And that was before he couldn't even go 5 innings and got 6 strikeouts. So I think May should do well against the Seattle lineup where a ton of guys will strike out against righties in that lineup. So for me, I would look at the Dodgers in the first 5 innings, take -0.5 in the first 5. It's not official for me, but I do think the Dodgers should be able to score. Of course, they should score a couple of runs in the first 5 innings against a lefty. They haven't been great. Like they have a bunch of guys in the lineup that really haven't done great. Like Betts has an ISO of 0.000, through 12 plate appearances. Obviously hasn't, played much. But, they should be able to do enough with the middle of the order. Those righties, Turner, Smith, Taylor. So you expect those guys to do a little damage here. I know Taylor hit a home run yesterday. So I look at the Dodgers to score in the first 5. And I think May will hold it down. I really do. So I would look at the first 5 if you're betting on this one for the Dodgers, especially if you're on the East Coast, so you don't have to wait the entire game.
Up in your neck of the woods, Kyle, take a look at those Dodgers going on the road. And again, I always preface that by saying they are going to get a full 9 at-bats in this game. They are going to have no pitcher batting. Sheffield, decent pitcher. He's actually done decent against right-handed batters, which obviously the Dodgers are going to throw a lot of them. But when we're taking a look at team totals, there's 4.5s, minus 130s floating around out here. No reason to believe they can't get the 5-run center, as Jason says, do some damage over the first 5 innings just against the starting pitcher. What's your angle tonight looking between the Mariners and the Dodgers?
Yeah, and you're looking at this first 5, minus 135. You don't really get that number very often with the Dodgers. It's always 190, 160, 210. And it might be inflated a little bit because, the Mariners, they're in first place. Now, not all first-place teams are created alike. Like the Dodgers are a first-place team with a plus 38 run differential. The Mariners are minus 3 run differential. Mm-hmm. So I sort of look at these things. Now, the Dodgers do make me nervous against lefties. We've talked about it a couple times. In the one game I won betting the under in their game was against a lefty. I believe it was Luzardo in Oakland. So that sort of makes me nervous. Betts, obviously, is Mr. MLB himself. Did you know his middle name's Lynn? His initials are literally MLB, Mookie Betts. There you go. Marcus Lynn Betts. He's literally Mr. MLB. How good is that? But he's terrible against lefties, absolutely terrible. And they tend to rest him. I've seen, the last couple of times they face lefties, all of a sudden Betts isn't in the lineup. Probably be a little more difficult to do that tonight since it's an American League game when you have the DH. So the Dodgers do make me a little nervous, but anytime I see this team and I'm getting a first 5 when I think they have the pitching advantage and that number's less than 150, I'm taking it. So the bet for me here would be the Dodgers minus 135 in the first half. There are some bats. Seager, not bad for Seattle against right-handed pitching. I don't mind that. But you look at the Dodgers, it's Smith, it's Taylor, advantage. AJ Pollock, even if you're looking for a value play, way down at 2,200. I know he's been really, really bad, like 9 fantasy points over the last week and a half. But eventually he's going to snap out of it. This is the kind of advantage to do it. He's 25 points better against lefties and righties in terms of weighted OPS over the last 3 years. It's Dodgers or bust. I don't mind if someone wants to take a little underdog shot here. If I was going to do that, I think I might go with Texas. I like betting the underdogs here, but Dodgers first 5 minus 135 makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, we'll see if you get a running mate here. Maybe you can get a couple runs for the Mariners, but again, it doesn't matter because you're not going to be chasing anybody down. Being the away team, you can score as many times as you want in the top of the 9th inning and don't have to miss out on that. So that is the short, abbreviated Major League Baseball card for tonight. As we said already, a game in the books, Boston and the Chicago White Sox. That game ended 11-4 earlier in the day. Not a great card, but there are some spots where we can dig in and try to make some money on. So I'm going to start with you first here as we slide it down the best bets around the card, some bankers. Jason, what are we dealing with on a Monday here that the good people can win some money on?
Yeah, we're going with the Padres minus 145 in the first 5 on the money line. So if it's a tie game, it's a push. If the Padres win, of course, we win that wager. If you want to be more aggressive, if you're unlike me and you want to be more aggressive, that minus 0.5 in the first 5 is a plus 105. So that's pretty good value there, of course, for the Padres at home against the Brewers. But I'm on the Padres minus 145 in the first 5. I really do like Musgrove, and I think the Padres bats can do enough against Woodruff in the first 5 innings to score a couple runs.
Yeah, it looks cheap in that one, so I do agree with you on that. Kyle, take a look at some best bets and bankers here on a Monday in Major League Baseball. What are you looking at?
Guys, I really tried to go the whole time. With Friday, you were so good. Over 100 likes, I didn't have to say a damn thing. And then today with a pathetic 41. Hit the like button. What the hell is going on here? Help us out.
It's Monday. They're tired out there, man.
Yeah. Wake up, hit the damn like button, get a drink. Let's get it sorted out. Thank you all for doing that. I love the Padres team total over 3.5. I just think the number's too low. I think they can get it done. And Milwaukee's bullpen hasn't been as good as advertised. And I'll take a little plus money one here. I'm going to take that Royals first 5 plus 125. I like that plus money spot as well. Padres team total, Royals first 5. Let's rock and roll.
There you go. Not too bad as we take a look here. I'm going to go out on a flyer in this one. There's two games I liked on this card, and I do like that San Diego team total for the Padres. I really think that has a legitimate chance. Woodruff, very good pitcher, but it lines up well, and we're not asking for 6 runs in that game, right? You just got to get a couple runs, be able to push that over. The second one that I was close to, we just went over it, was the Los Angeles Dodgers. Anytime you get them on the road with a full 9 at-bats, not against a dominant pitcher, it's probably something you could check into. The 4.5 at -130, I do think they get the 5 runs. But I got to tell you, this is, again, it's April, not great weather. I'm sort of taking a projection here because when I'm looking at pitchers more than batters right now, where I just don't see a dominant performance in them. And if they do have a dominant performance, so be it. And I've done this time and time again, fade the Philadelphia Phillies. I'm going to do that particularly tonight with Anderson on the mound. The xFIP is extremely high. It's only through 2 starts. I understand that. You're looking at a lineup that strikes out a lot, being the San Francisco Giants. But if I'm going to be able to stack in just a lineup that we don't know is official yet, 5 lefties in the lineup, I think they can get some runs. And we're only asking for 4 in a full 9 at-bats. It's not horrendous conditions in Philadelphia. You're talking about high 50s with the wind blowing out, 4 runs over 9 innings. I think the Giants will be able to do that today, and the juice isn't bad either. So I'm going to go the San Francisco team total over 4, -114. A little bit of a fade of Anderson, a little bit of a fade of that bullpen by the Philadelphia Phillies. Nola saved the day yesterday. I don't think that's going to be the case here. You think they can scratch at least 2 runs over 5 innings versus Anderson, maybe chip away at that bullpen. Worst case scenario, you get 4 runs. Best case scenario, 5 or more, you're cashing this ticket. So I'm going to go against my Philadelphia Phillies. Hey, 6-5 winner by the Phillies. We all go home happy. That's where I'm going tonight with my best bet and banker. But a fun show all the way around. About 45 minutes, a couple of little moments we can spend with the chat box here as we clear the bases, but sort of wind down the month. But the topic for me, Kyle, I'll start with you first, is can I just dip in the Citizens Bank ballpark and see off into the sunset, 80 degrees with the wind blowing? Where is this at? We're not even getting the Indian spring that we usually get. Like, give me a couple days in the 70s in a row, man.
It would be nice. It would be nice if we could get that anywhere. It feels like everywhere is cold. I guess LA is warm today, so there you go. Congratulations. Of course, you assholes get the nice weather again down there in my former neck of the woods. But yeah, man, warm weather would be nice. Eventually here, it's going to be all overs all day long and none of this. Okay, we're taking the under first 5 crap that we hate to do. But, yeah, it needs to warm up. Time for the groundhog to go away, not see a shadow, shoot that thing in the head, whatever the hell you got to do to that damn thing. It's time for warmer weather.
Ty from the chat box says, Betts might be the most overrated hype player in Major League Baseball. I don't know about all that.
Whoa.
And Arthur Pacheco says, money time out here, and also cheers. And Isaiah Moore was leaning towards the Royals as a dog. A lot of great shows out here. It's fun. You know, a little bit Major League Baseball card on a Monday. Never hurt anybody. Can watch it as it goes. The thing I do like about my card here, Jason, is that I did not take the Dodgers team total 4.5 because I don't want to be up at 12:45 waiting for them to come by. Give the Giants, give me some runs so I can get to bed. I know. Look, you can't cap that way because that's what you're going to end up losing money. I can't bet my favorite team. I can't get a bet at my favorite team, and I'm only going to take the first 5 because I don't want to wake up late. It doesn't work out that well, but sometimes when you settle in on the earlier game, Jason, I love it, man.
Yeah, and it just so happens I'm on the Padres game as my banker of the day with the Padres -145. But it is the first 5 innings, so it won't be too late. Maybe finish around midnight and I can get to bed and worry about the next day. But yeah, I like the Padres in this one, and you know that doesn't affect. You know, I don't look at the times when I cap. I just worry about what I like, and the Padres is what I like in this really small card. So.
Yep, we're all gamblers out here. There's many times where, you know, in the past you're looking at a game like, do I want to bet the 1 o'clock game or do I want to settle in and say, at least I can't lose the 1 o'clock game and bet the 4 o'clock game so I can enjoy the 1 o'clock games? Everybody's been there at a certain point. Yeah. But looking out here, Vegas has grilling weather, says Abel, and also Arthur Pacheco. Long Beach, Compton and Long Beach, 85 degrees down there in Southern California. Guys, thank you on a Monday for tuning in right here at sportsbook.com to watch the Major League Baseball show. Guess what? We'll be back again tomorrow, 2:30 Eastern, breaking down the card once again. Best bets and bankers. We will cheer them on as we go, but also thank you guys for tuning in. I'm Donnie Seymour for Jason Radowitz and Kyle Purviance. We are sportsbook.com, and this was your Monday Major League Baseball show. Good luck on those wagers.